It is now time that we each implement extraordinary measures, perhaps measures we have never taken before, to strengthen our personal spiritual foundations. Unprecedented times call for unprecedented measures. My dear brothers and sisters, these are the latter days. If you and I are to withstand the forthcoming perils and pressures, it is imperative that we each have a firm spiritual foundation built upon the rock of our Redeemer, Jesus Christ. Then, as we keep our covenants, He endows us with His healing, strengthening power. And oh, how we will need His power in the days ahead.
I'm Travis Wayne Goodsell. As you can see, I'm back on my YouTube channel. Apparently, the cyber terrorists have temporarily, at least, backed off. And it's interesting timing, as it is obvious they were shutting me down on my computer, not just being mean on YouTube, which wouldn't have stopped me from doing videos. And it was for silencing me for conference. And as a whistleblower against the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, what the church did was further incriminate themselves. You cannot retaliate against whistleblowers. There are laws protecting whistleblowers. So the Ensign Peak Advisor's whistleblower, he's supposed to be protected too. President Russell M. Nelson, for conference this October 2021, said there are perils in the coming days ahead, confessing we're in the latter days, and re-emphasizing that they're wearing their masks, socially distancing, and fully vaccinated. Finally. Yes, something's going on behind the scenes that Nelson is not telling us about. I've told you that I reported on the church as a whistleblower through YouTube. His healing power of gratitude to cure coronavirus is a dangerous and deadly video that needed to be pulled down. And sure enough, after I reported, YouTube went silent. They didn't follow the same process and procedure that they would for a regular person. But the church, First Presidency, came out with a request to wear masks in the temple and get fully vaccinated. Church is the super spreader. And so it's also curious, as the prophets have always focused on temple attendance, not so much church attendance. You know, when Nelson took over, he was concerned and did the world trip to try to drum up more support for church attendance, because the Mormon leaked that the sacrament meeting attendance was pretty much next to nil in Central America and other locations around the world. And so Utah Mormons apparently are still seeing full churches during a pandemic. And so Mormons here in Utah don't see the big picture that's going on. And it was about almost a decade, well, probably was a decade ago, when the news came out and said that the church had lost millions of membership by just refusing to go to church, refusing to participate. And if you do not understand business in the world of finance and land and insurance and investments, to claim a higher number than is actually real in order to purchase land for a temple, to get insurance, to report on your taxes for the non-exempt status, that you have so many membership, and yeah, that's fraud. That's a crime too. And so yeah, it was strange to hear Oaks order church attendance and extort your exaltation through church attendance rather than the temple, which has been the traditional extortion technique of the prophets. As going to the temple means you're paying a full tithe. You don't have to pay tithing to go to church. You won't get a calling, you won't be able to get priesthood advancement or office, but you can go to church free of charge. The manner in which I'm a whistleblower began back in 2008. I sued the church through the state, and the church retaliated using the state, because it's all Mormon here. The government is run by the church, so when the church says something, the government obeys, because they're Mormon. We give loyalty oaths in the temple, endowment, priesthood covenants, and in my generation, it was under the penalty of death. The law of sacrifice, for example. Even your own lives, if necessary, in protecting and defending the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so when Nelson gets up and tells Mormons to strengthen their foundation with the temple, endowment, priesthood covenants, and then gets up in the last talk announcing 13 more temples, again, buying up the land of Utah to restore the kingdom of Deseret. With polygamy, Nelson changed the temple covenants as he tried to justify doing so. I can do whatever I want. You can't have polygamy. It's a crime. And he keeps retracting. He tells us that it's a progressive restoration. Does that mean retracting? the progression? There's been numerous times. I've lost count of the times where I've stepped in to stop him from what he's been progressively restoring. Because it's not the state lawsuit. They retaliated in full force. But when I was freed from my captivity in their concentration camp, because they didn't do it according to the law. Are you familiar with Helaman? Chapter 6? Let's go over it. Helaman. In 22, it's talking about the secret combination. They had their signs, their secret signs, secret words. They might distinguish a brother who had entered into the covenant. Whatsoever wickedness his brother should do should not be injured by his brother, who did belong to his band. Notice Nelson called the Babylonian band. And then it demanded Sabbath observance. If you don't know, Babylon created the Sabbath day. The Egyptians had every day to worship God. And so the Babylonians finally came along and created a 7-day week and were superstitious about the 7th day. So the 7th day of the week, which was the end of the week, became the day of rest so that you didn't work. Because the superstition, bad luck. That's where it came from. So that was hilarious. That was probably on par with his botching of Israel with a white supremacist definition, which one of the women yesterday took it and ran with it. When you are a leader and you give incorrect information knowingly, it leads to the followers going down the wrong covenant path. And so here's where I fit in verse 24. And whosoever of those who belong to their band should reveal unto the world of their wickedness and their abominations, whistleblowers, should be tried not according to the laws of their country, but according to the laws of their wickedness. That's what happened to me. The Book of Mormon is true, because the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the great and abominable church spoken of in the Book of Mormon. And they are working with the secret combination, as we found out last week. Mormons are members, and Mormons are associated with members of that secret combination that was exposed. I went over the little black book for you. You can't commit crime. And you especially can't claim to be the true church of a true God that was created by Constantine. He did it in the exact same manner as Constantine did. And so I sued the church for what they did to me, having found the documentation that they had ordered and paid for my assassination. And in those lawsuits, knowing I wasn't going to get justice, tried to put into the public record as much as I could. And so yes, that's where Nelson did most of his retractions. And Holland had his little episode that rushed him to the hospital, and they didn't report it until 2 weeks later. But I've been telling you, I have been reporting to the intelligence agencies and the government about their crimes that they're still doing. I'm still a whistleblower. Even in James Huntsman, where he had the Ensign Peak Advisors whistleblower testify, but then lost the judgment because he called tithing a donation. And so I'm the one who sent the lawyers an email informing them of how tithing actually works in the church. It's a protection racket, and as such, all crimes follow. Recruitment of new membership is a pyramid scam. Just like Cox, who publicly announced doTERRA will cure coronavirus in children, which is not medically advisable and strongly warned against. Plus, doTERRA is a pyramid scam. They want to claim MLM, multi-level marketing. What is a pyramid but multi-levels? And when it's involving a pyramid economic scam, yeah, it's marketing on a multi-level, which is criminal. When recruitment is involved, it is a crime. And maybe I can do some use-splaining and say maybe Mormons don't realize what a crime is because they're born and raised Mormon to believe that everything is good, just, and true. One woman did Jesus-splaining and then justified use-splaining. Maybe you're wicked because... But they kept enforcing loyalty and obedience, and I knew something was coming. And Nelson did it in the first Sunday session, and he was veiled and general and obscure and vague. But the temple covenants, the covenant path, had it clicked in me. I got revelation by referring to the temple covenants. He's calling Mormons to arms. Typically, you don't announce a government investigation. But I can't think of actual conspiring with some other group to justify temple covenants to protect you. You know, I did that video because it was confusing to me. Wear your magic underwear to protect yourself from the coming perils. And he finally acknowledges we're in the second coming and acknowledges that the perils are worse than what we're already going through. But the loyalty to the church, the obedience to the church and the prophets, and the temple covenants for safety and protection from the coming perils in the coming days ahead it finally clicked. So I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I can't judge the distance away. I'm hopeful that I'll eventually be able to sigh relief. I have a dream. I've been to the top of the mountain. Literally, I've been to the tops of mountains here in America. Beautiful up there. But yes, Martin Luther King has been going through my mind since I figured that out. As his religion, his Christian religion, does not accept Moses as the Christ. Jesus is the Christ for Christians. For Jews, Moses is the Christ. And so his "I've been to the top of the mountain" speech, he's referring to himself as a Moses of the latter days, to free blacks from oppression and slavery. For which he was assassinated. But the Mormons, under Joseph Smith, as you notice, Anderson doubled down on Jesus is angry, going against, was it Uchtdorf? Don't contend with anger. If you're going to go around the world demanding people accept you as Christian, you're not Christian. People will know the Mormon Church by its fruit. And it's obvious the world recognizes the fruit of Mormonism as not Christian. Because if you have to tell somebody, don't you know who I am? Obviously they don't, and don't care. But the Mormon Christ is Moses. So in Deuteronomy 18, when Moses says, in the last days, a man like me, Moses, will speak to the people like I spoke to the house of Israel, and those who don't listen will die. As Joseph Smith refers to Acts, but then says cut off, rather than destroyed, which Acts says, which is not in Deuteronomy. It's, I can't remember the word in Deuteronomy, it's different. And so then the big reveal by Joseph Smith is hidden in the Doctrine and Covenants, which I'm probably sure most Mormons only read the Book of Mormon and avoid, where possible, the Doctrine and Covenants. Because it's so big, so long, so many sections, and very long verses within some sections. So the redemption of Zion, the latter days. Nelson's finally admitted we're here, but where's Zion? Therefore, I will raise up mortal baby, mortal parents, not Homoousius of Constantine, unto my people, the Mormons, a man who shall lead them like as Moses led the children of Israel. And Mormons will be led out of bondage. We're in the latter days, Nelson confessed. He falsely accused the world of being Babylon. The tithing scam is the bondage. It's financial bondage, just like slavery. So in verse 14, Joseph Smith again refers to Deuteronomy 18 and uses his history cut off rather than destroyed in Acts and the other word in Deuteronomy. If you do not listen to the voice of the servants, neither give heed to the words of the prophets and apostles, which refers to written scripture, does not refer to Brigham, who is not authorized to succeed Joseph Smith, shall be cut off from among the people. You have to listen or you're going to die. For they, who's they? Strayed from mine ordinances. Oh, we're narrowing it down, aren't we? What did Joseph Smith do? He restored the gospel. No. That was a big error in yesterday's conference, or a weekend's conference. We restore the ordinances. And the everlasting covenant. That's the only covenant for Mormons. No loyalty oaths with penalties of death. That was Brigham Young. Joseph Smith was all about the marriage covenant with washings and anointings, high priests, high priestesses, kings and queens who are Christ and Christas. We become Christ in the temple initiatories. We now take the name of Christ for that reason. So that as a married couple, we are Melchizedek's. Melech, king, Zadok, high priest. Righteous. Perfect. And children are born in the covenant. And Joseph told us there's a future Mormon coming. Born in the covenant of the eternal covenant that will be broken. The church will fall into apostasy. The temple will need to be set in order again after Joseph. Section 85, verse 7. So who is he talking about? They? Mormons. And so Mormons seek not the Lord to establish his righteousness. Are you seeking the Christ? You didn't even know the Christ. You thought it was Jesus of Constantine, Homoousius. That creed that started the other creeds that Joseph Smith told us in his first vision account that Son personage said was an abomination in his sight. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has played you for suckers and losers. But here's the promise. Perish in Babylon, even Babylon the Great, which shall fall. They did not decode this, did they? In 1981, they claimed they decoded the whole Doctrine and Covenants, and it was just pretty much the United Order stuff. Babylon fell to the Persians, as the one woman was clueless, talking about Ishtar and Marduk with the king of Persia. I covered that in the video. I still have to upload the videos onto Travis Wayne Goodsell, so they're only on TWG for right now. And then this one will sneak in before them on Travis Wayne Goodsell, assuming I can cut it off here quick. And so, yes, wherefore I, the Lord, knowing the calamity which shall come upon the inhabitants of the earth, the great and abominable church, and the secret combination to destroy America and the world. And so, what else? What are they going to use as a weapon? Doctrine and Covenants, section 45, also still left coded, still needs to be decoded, as Joseph Smith even tells us, hey, I'm coding this, just like the Bible is coded, and I'm going to refer for this particular coded prophecy for the future of Mormons from Matthew 24. Notice there's no day and the hour that we won't know of. He knows the day and the hour. And so in verse 31, and there shall be men standing in that generation that shall not pass until they shall see an overflowing scourge, for a desolating sickness shall cover the land. And the one member of the 70 said it was mental illness. They refuse to acknowledge Joseph Smith as a prophet, let alone somebody who knew of the plot to destroy America and is trying to warn us with code, because his life was in danger. He was assassinated for it. But oh look, just like Moses told the house of Israel to stay home and stay safe, Joseph Smith in verse 32 says, don't be moved from your place, which supposedly were supposed to be Zion and New Jerusalem, the cities, the place of safety, refuge, and peace, which he talks about later on in the verse, or in the chapter or section. We don't have them, and so we're not safe from coronavirus. The prophet is not telling Mormons to stay home. He's not keeping church closed. And so for all of the display, oh, we're wearing our masks, we're socially distancing, you know, we're fully vaccinated, they still have the church open. And the virus is just going to continue indefinitely because they won't protect Mormons. We were warned by the medical professionals from the beginning. We need to have everybody stay home. It's too widespread now. We can't isolate pockets of outbreaks. Government said nope. Church said nope. And so this is going to be indefinite until the last humans who did stay home and stay safe, the survivors, remain as the virus finally passes over. Remember, the Jews, it's supposed to be for the house of Israel, but only the Jews keep it in remembrance as a holy day. So this is why I do my videos, is to warn you, to tell you the Book of Mormon is true. Joseph Smith is true. It's Brigham who's the bad guy. The church history, the real church history, exposes this. This is why I've dedicated the last 4 years to all of this. Because when I found out about the total solar eclipse over America on the 21st of August, 2017, I knew exactly what that meant. And I knew I had work to do. And here it comes, Mormons. The parable Joseph Smith talked about for the future Section 101, starting in verse 43. You just had that lesson last month in Sunday school, and they purposely deceived you with it. You now are the servants rather than the prophets. You're no longer the olive trees.